All right, so we have a special guest on the W Hoops basketball podcast this week. I'm going to do a special NBA edition, and my normal sidekick, Danielle, really didn't want to take too much time to talk about the NBA, so I have invited my friend Brandon Christensen to join me to just talk about the finals and some other general NBA news because he's a huge sports fan. So, Brandon, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks, Scott, man. Excited to be on your guys' podcast. Been enjoying watching it so far, and I'm learning a lot of WNBA from you guys. So it's growing my reach, from growing my understanding with it. But as you said, huge sports guy, love sports, big basketball fan as well too, and excited to talk with you today. So kind of take what we've done in some of our conversations and some of our meetings, hanging out to a podcast. So can't wait.
Yeah, well, I appreciate uh, taking the time to join me tonight. I told you, Danielle and I, when we started the W Hoops basketball podcast, we just said, hey, we talk about basketball all the time. Why don't we just record it and put it out, you know, on YouTube, on Spotify? Let's just do something because we talk about it all the time. And you and I tend to text and talk a lot about sports. And so I thought, hey, why don't we just record it? It's the same thing. We tend to have conversations and text messaging a lot of, especially when big events like the NBA finals are going on. So I said, hey, why don't we just record this conversation since the finals just finished last night? So we had the Paul George NBA finals with the
Yeah.
Indiana Pacers against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I think you're probably even a bigger NBA fan than I am. I love basketball. I grew up in Indiana, of course, in Hoosier through and through, but have always been more of a college basketball fan, but love good basketballs. So, yeah, what are some of your overall thoughts as the series ended last night?
Yeah, kind of a funny joke or story as the game ended, and I was watching. I like to watch all the commentary afterwards, and people think I'm weird. My wife's like, "Oh, I'm so disappointed the NBA season's over." That was because I think all I've been doing is watching basketball over the last couple of months. With the playoffs started like 18 years ago, it feels like. So she's glad to have me back a little bit in evenings, and my sleep schedule will probably be a little bit better now because I think it's been wrecked with it. So, yeah, I mean, I think well, overall series thoughts, and then certainly Game 7 as well too with it. So, I mean, I think the OKC has been an incredible team all year long with it, and really, I'm a big Lakers fan, big LeBron fan as well, but really started watching OKC in the playoffs a little bit more, watching them in the regular season. But man, they are, I talk about the fun basketball. I mean, they are an incredible team built on sharing. They don't really seem, I mean, they have a clear star in SGA, but he doesn't seem to have that like superstar type of, or that just kind of not that the other superstars put people down, but just it's really a collective effort together that they really do celebrate each other with it. And so I think on display last night, which is what we saw, is their defense. I mean, I think in that third quarter, we'll probably break down a little bit later on, but that third quarter, their ticket, their calling card has been their defense, I think, throughout the year, offense with it. And just you saw it locked down with it. And so I think the better team, I think the better team all year long won. We were just talking about that, a few minutes ago. Just tends the better team tends to rise to the top. But man, Indiana. I mean, I became a fan and believer, and I feel like at the end I was like, man, maybe I should root for Indiana here. These guys are just the underdog story. And man, I'm a 5'11" guy. Played sports all my life. I've never been the most athletic guy necessarily, but I had a grit and iron, and you just think about how those guys fought with it. So really good series. I think two teams that you said that in a day and age when we have big market teams, big superstars of players with it. These teams were built, through the draft, right? Through team depth as well. And man, what an incredible thing to maximize on the Paul George trade to be able to give us two teams that gave us a great series.
It was a great series, a lot of fun. Teams that both teams played hard, both teams shared the ball and moved it around. Maybe I don't know if we buried the lead by going straight to overall thoughts on the series with the big injury last night. I mean, that was you just hate to see that for anybody, right? I mean, anytime as an athlete and a competitor, you always want to beat the best team at their best. You don't want to have that happen. I mean, it's part of sports. We all know people get hurt. I mean, obviously, Jason Tatum got hurt earlier in the playoffs, had a big impact. It does seem like this Achilles injury is coming up more and more often.
Mhm.
Um, I saw an interesting podcast. Maybe we can talk about this sometime, Brandon, in one of our calls. Maybe you don't have to make a podcast about it, but this foot doctor who does shoe reviews said he wondered if the increased traction on modern shoes is helping to lead to these injuries.
Mm.
So just they get so much traction. Basically, you put so much more torque on your
Mhm.
body because you're able to get better grip. So I don't know, but it does seem like we're kind of having a lot more ACL injuries in the NBA than we have historically. Um, yeah, it was just a shame to see Halliburton go out. You'd rather see um, a team at full health.
Yeah, no, I think that it's interesting as we watched the reports last night. I mean, the summaries afterwards and some of the stuff I watched today. It is in some angle I mean, it's like you feel for both sides right now, right? You feel Halbert. I mean, that was just brutal to watch him go down. I mean, you saw it and you're like KD, remnants of KD, a few years ago in that series as well. Tatum early this in playoffs, Dame early this playoff. You're right, and I think there's a whole thing of what is going on with these Achilles. And then I think it actually interesting what happened. I think it affected OKC more than it did the Indiana. I think OKC, kind of was recovering with it and like, oh, how do we kind of deal with this situation, from that regard. And so you feel for him and you wanted, man, this incredible setup. And it was starting like that, right? I mean, three for four, Halliburton hits a shot. And then on the flip side, this OKC won. And what's sad is this, this lead of the Halliburton story, right? And OKC is taken a little bit away from what they did. And, everybody will say, what if, could they won or not? I think the thing about it was they weren't the underdog. They were the best team all year long as well too, and won the championship. And we're battling right there with it. Who knows if this goes down to the game, from that regard to it. So you do feel for them as well that they played the game they played right now, as you said, right? They couldn't not stop and not play and go win a championship with it. And so congrats to OKC on that one. But yeah, Halliburton. I was thinking to myself in that scenario, like, what would you do? Like, what would I do, right? As a competitor, because everybody says the risk of the calf injury, but who knows if you ever get back to a game seven again? And I think he probably
Right.
does it 10 times out of 10 times. But yeah, you hate to see it for sure.
You really do. But like you said, I mean, OKC was the best team this year. Um, Clearly had historic, I think, their average margin of victory was, near historic levels. They were a great team and a very worthy champion. But, Indiana was a really fun story this year with the clutch shots, the comebacks. I mean, it was like Hoosiers come to life with
Mhm.
Indiana just with the way they made it. And so it was a really fun story to follow them. My basketball fandom is more college oriented. In the NBA, I tend to like individual players. I think I've told you this before. And then I like, in the 80s, because I grew up not too far from where Larry Bird grew up, when Bird came into the league, I just started following the Celtics, but it was because of Larry Bird, right? And then, later it was Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Just loved the way Golden State played basketball. So, my recent NBA fandom has been Golden State, but it's really about Klay and Steph. It wasn't about Golden State per se. So, you know, um, not really, even though I'm from Indiana, I'm not a big Pacers fan, but this team kind of made me a fan. They were just
Mhm.
fun to watch. And, kind of a good 2-year run here, really. They made it to the Eastern Conference Championship last year. So it was fun, but OKC, clearly the best team, I think, this year and a worthy champion.
Mhm. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I've heard about this Indiana basketball thing from you, obviously, and I'm a big college hoops fan as well too, right? So grew up a big Duke fan, and then went to Florida State as it shows behind me here, and but the Indiana basketball to see a glimpse of that, right? I mean, in the field house there, I mean, to see the former players come back like that means something. You don't necessarily always see that in teams, right, where they come back like a college thing. There's like a fraternity of the players. I mean, the stories of McConnell. I mean, what he did to single-handedly hold him in a couple of games with it. I mean, just going in there again, not the biggest of guys with it, not the most athletic necessarily, but just a grinder, man, just a hard runner. I mean, yeah, I think he went on like 14 points or some straight crazy thing from like the third quarter, most of the third quarter that kept him in from that regard too. I think there was, I mean, the highest scorer was it Siakam at like 21, I think 22 points or something for the series. And they spread the wealth out with different things. But I think that's what made them as much as hard it was when Halliburton went down. They've faced adversity, and because they have a collective effort, right? If SGA goes down, OKC, I think OKC, as much as they have the depth of it, they still revolve around SGA. And I think McConnell had played some big minutes. Nimhart, all those other guys had played some good stuff with it. So, but the engine with it. What's interesting in the game yesterday, I remember I was texting you, and I was like one of these things where you and I often will say these things with it, and I remember saying to you at the end of the half when it was up by one, I said the first 5 minutes are going to tell me what this game's going to be like, right? In the second half, because if it goes close, I think OKC is going to lose this because they're going to be, tight, and they were playing tight in the first half. But if they
Mm,
stretch that lead out, I think the game will be over. And I remember literally looking up at the mark, and I wrote the sequence down at the 7:13 mark. They were third quarter. OKC was up by 9 points, and just a minute and a half before they've been tied. They hit three straight 3-pointers, and they had
mm.
several turnovers, and boom, right at the mark. So almost exactly at that 5 minute mark, they were up from 9 points with it, and I think that just stretched their defense and how they were able to win with it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sad it's kind of over. It's like, oh man, I gotta wait, for the games with it. But it's been fun, and I agree with you, man. They're just a good group to watch. Both teams, I think, really just there's just a love for basketball. I think that these guys have as well too.
Yeah. Well, just a couple other things on the finals, and then maybe we can
Yep.
move on. A couple of, obviously there's some other big news in the NBA world with the KD trade and the NBA draft coming up just in a couple of days here. So wanted to get your thoughts on just a couple other things. So one is just the physicality of the game. You watched a lot more of it than I did, and I've probably griped about this to you a lot. You know, I grew up in a different era, playing basketball at a different time, but the game is still physical. I mean, you had the Bad Boys Pistons.
Mhm.
There's a lot of physicality that's
Yep.
part of basketball. At different stages, it tends to ebb and flow what's allowed and what's not allowed. But I'm used to, hey, the closer you get to the basket, it's going to get a lot more physical. But this series seemed to have just allow a lot of physicality by both teams, you know.
Mhm.
But Dort and Caruso are both really strong perimeter defenders. And I think OKC, when the refs weren't calling it tight, big advantage OKC, I think, in this series.
Mhm. Yeah, you're right. We grew up in that. We played in the streets. The balls. It was the no blood, no foul. So, and that was the inner thing. If you went in the line, man, you're gonna get hacked, and it better be blood. Or you're gonna call a foul with it. So we make fun of people for calling those weak fouls. So yeah, those areas, man, the Pistons, and I mean what they did to Jordan when he used to come through the lane. I mean it was just crazy. And so kind of grew up there. But I think when you and I talked about it too, you always said there's a difference between the perimeter and between inside, right? If you go inside,
Right,
it's that physicality, but being able to let people move on it with it. And I mean, Dort and yeah, Caruso, I mean, if they can certainly get away with that more physicality, that's their defense. They're right up over you. Dort's going up over screens, constantly. He's not trying to switch although they can switch really good, no problem at all. Any of those guys can switch well, but yeah, I think it definitely seemed to be as the playoffs went along, you've seen the physicality seem to increase, every round. The referee
right.
kind of swallow the whistle. Now, we could have the conspiracy theories here that talk about all the time, dictating the outcomes of the game by the referees. And I know Scott Foster didn't ref in Game 7, which was really
Game
interesting.
four, though, right? Did you?
Yeah, they said in Game 4 he was, and really I thought it was Rick Crocs who came out well and defended him and said, "I've known this guy for
Yes.
30 years. This isn't the stuff to take with it." But I did thought it was interesting that they did not have him in Game 7, and they talk about his history of when one team's down, they help do the whistle with it, and even if it's a subconscious thing, is there something there from that standpoint? But yeah, I think it played into OKC's thing. I mean, I think their mentality is kind of like we're gonna play physical and adjust if you call it, if you're gonna call the fouls on the game with it. So I think it's certainly, favored because so much more of Indiana's game was the perimeter game, right? I mean, I think
Right.
I mean, they had the most 3-pointers in all the playoffs of all the teams. And see, OKC for them, they don't rely as much. And quite frankly, they need to shoot less sometimes. I kept telling them yesterday, I was on the screen, like, stop shooting threes. You're not making them. But Indiana needs the three, right? They need that for the element with it. And that's why I think it definitely affects them a lot more than an OKC team, that can physically
Yeah.
go through it.
Well, just a couple other thoughts. One, and get your reaction to both of these. One's just more lighthearted, and one's more maybe tactical, strategic for OKC going forward. So the lighthearted one first. Does this count as OKC's second championship?
You're referring back to Seattle, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Huh. I
What do
mean,
you,
they would say first and okay. I mean, it depends. I mean, certain franchises carry him forward, right? I think
right,
what I read because I mean, the Lakers count the one, right,
right.
in Milwaukee. The
Yeah,
Braves, yeah,
Minnesota. It was the Minneapolis Lakers. They have five of their championships were, yeah, because they had the original great big man, George Mikan, played
yep.
for the Minneapolis Lakers.
Yep. Braves counted, they counted one of their things with it. I think what I read earlier was because a part of the move was they didn't take the name with them. They left all essentially, the stuff with Seattle. And so it was as much, it was a transfer or relocation. But it's a new kind of franchise in some ways with it. So yeah, lighthearted with it. I'll give it to them. It's their first one.
It's their first. I think the OKC fans probably think it's their first one.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it probably should be done that way. So the second thing, what do you think? You've probably watched, like I said, a lot more of the playoffs than I did. SGA was 8 for 27, I think, in the game yesterday, but he's clearly the motor of their offense. I mean, even when he's not hitting shot, he's got to create everything for everybody. He had a lot of assists yesterday, and they don't really have, they have a lot of talented players, but nobody who can really create anything except for SGA. It seems like at this point. I mean, having watched them for several rounds now, are there things you think they need to look at doing differently next year to repeat?
Yeah, it's a great question. I thought about that. You're criticizing somebody that just won a championship, so it's always kind of a funny thing with it. No, I thought about this earlier as well, and somebody said that was the best 8 for 26 I've ever seen. Best 8 for 26 game. They were like, I think people realized it. And he threw up a lot of shots at different times with it. So yeah, I think a couple things. I mean, if they're going to, you look back and I mean they had some close things. I mean the Denver game, right? They're behind, they lose, game five in Denver. Game was no game four, game five in OKC. They would have been down 3-2 going back to Denver. They needed that one. They were getting with it. So it's the one side of it, they would say, hey, they matured and grew up. They battled tough things with it. The other side would say, you came close. I think about the Golden State teams that dominated, right? I mean, their dynasty they just destroyed people most rounds with it. I think a couple of things they've got to work on is I think they've got to get better at their 3-point shooting. I mean, I think in today's NBA, I think you've got to be a little bit on the road. They were atrocious. I think 28%, 29. I mean, you made one three. The game that they won, game four, they only made 3 3-pointers. I mean, that in this day and age,
Wow.
that's pretty crazy that you made 3 3-pointers to win. So I think they've got to get more consistency with the 3-pointers. I think Jalen Williams stepped up. So I think about creating a shot. He can create his own shot as well. So I think you got the Batman and Robin duo. So I think that side of it. And I think at times, SGA had 12 assists last night. And I think that was huge for him to distribute the ball. I think he's got a little bit of that Kobe-esque in him, where Kobe just he'll just go 6 times in a row and just he's determined to shoot the ball. I'm like, you're not shooting good shots, right? And
Mm,
I think at times he's got to be a little bit more efficient and engage the team with it for them to continue to go on a run like they run. I mean, they survive. Their defense covers a lot of their offensive uh,
mm,
their mistakes or their offensive miscues, whatever that per se. If they didn't have that defense, they would definitely be a lot more trouble because the defense is so good. I think that covers it. So as long as they've got that, that'll cover a multitude of sins, as we say. But I think those areas, I think you can get more consistent in their 3-point shooting. I think SGA's got to look at times where he presses a little bit too much. Rely on his teammates with it. So, but I think the thing, Chet's only going to get better. I mean, he's not even at full capacity yet either.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Chet's gonna just keep growing. And to tie this kind of into our normal theme of the Indiana Fever on this podcast, yeah, I
Yep.
think there are some similarities with Caitlin Clark really, just being so vital to the Indiana Fever offense, and SGA is kind of the same way. And I heard somebody make a comment. It's like uh, SGA, Oklahoma City needs to figure out a system to take advantage of the other players' skills and not just depend on SGA creating everything in the half court. I think and sometimes that'll come over time. They're still a young team. So yeah, I didn't mean it as a criticism of them. I was just saying, I don't think they're a great half court offensive team outside of Shea. Shea's a great half court offensive player. I mean, clearly a top five player in the league. But I think they like the Indiana Fever. I Indiana's quite dependent on Caitlin Clark, and I think Oklahoma City, if they're not creating offense off their defense, they struggle in the half court unless Shea carries them. And I think I'm just saying they won the championship
Yeah.
without having a great half court offense. So, I mean, if they can develop a great half court offense, I mean, you know, barring injury issues, they're going to be the team to beat for the next several years. So, yeah, great champion. They deserved it. And so,
Yep. You
yeah,
gotta
any
love the
final
city of
thoughts?
OKC. Their fans, man. I'm sorry to interrupt you there. Yeah, their fans are, man, just incredible. I mean, I love the way they wear the shirts. I mean, you got these shirts and every one of them wore the shirts they had for it. So yeah, you love it for them. And you're right, man. I mean, half court off. I mean, you think about them winning it, the second youngest team to ever win it. Average age is 24, 25.2 years of age. Their half court offense has got a lot of work to do, 3-point shooting. And they went and they fixed those things. And
Yeah.
they've got all that. I mean, they got two draft picks this year, 15 and 24, I think it is, and a second round. Whew, I mean, this,
And they've got a boatload of other draft
yeah,
picks coming up still, right? I mean, yeah, so they've got it's scary for the rest of the league. But I mean, one last thought on this. This was me stealing something I heard earlier on the Bill Simmons podcast. Was think about Oklahoma City in 2012 when they had made it to the championship and lost, but they had Durant, Westbrook, Harden, and Serge Ibaka. I mean, that fan base probably thought, "Oh, we're going to be set for the next few years." Then trades and just things happened and it didn't work out. So you never know, but
mhm,
it certainly seems like OKC is the team best set up for the next 4 to 5 years.
yep,
So
yep. They've got the recipe for sure. But you never know. That's why you want to win now. You don't know if you get back right. There's no guarantees. I mean,
yeah,
it's sport.
100%. Yeah. Well, hey, just in the last few minutes, a couple other topics we wanted to talk about was the Kevin Durant trade. So what were your thoughts when you saw that?
Man, we've talked about this before. So this is Durant's fifth team, right? I think we said, and I mean, great player, great offensive guy for sure. I mean, one of the best with it. I think the thing when we were talking about fits not too long ago about this one, the one thing that Durant that I think is a key thing where he's maybe struggled and why he fit really well in the Golden State, right, and the other places is he is not your leader, right? He is not going to go into a locker room and rah up or challenge him, right? Think of, with it. He's going to go and he's going to go do his thing with it. And so if you need a team where you need that clear like leader, that kind of vet leader that's going to step into a situation, guys, we're playing really bad. We're doing these things. He's not it, right? I think he fits well under some other folks with it. So when we were thinking about fits, in some ways, I was thinking like Minnesota could have been a good fit because you got Anthony
Hmm.
Edwards, right? You got Ant-Man. He's a baller. He's a stud. He'll get in people's face with it. He's like, I'll take all the heat for you, Katie. You just go do your thing. And Houston's got a love a young core that they've got with it, but are they going to have somebody else that's going to step in that's going to lead them, in terms of a younger team with it? So, and yeah, so I think that's kind of some of my initial thoughts with it. And then I think in this day and age where the depth question becomes into line and a young team coming up there is, they lost a couple of good players in the mix up. They lost some draft picks as well too. So are you going to need depth to compete with an OKC, with an Indiana and those things with it? So, but I mean, no doubt. I mean, he's going to bring incredible offense to take him to the next level. But people have him favored as a second favorite team. I don't know if you saw this as a second favorite team,
I heard
and,
that.
and I was like, yeah, I thought that was way too much for that team compared to what else is out there. What do you think?
Yeah.
You can't wait to love your thoughts.
Well, I mean, I think from a basketball point of view, it's a great fit. I mean, Houston was a young, athletic team, but lacked a go-to scorer
Yep.
in the half court when you get into the crunch time. And KD is one of the greatest scorers in the history of the game. And so, just from a pure basketball fit and what they needed to take the next step, you know, I mean, great fit. I agree with you that, KD, I mean, I just don't know if he can be the best player and leader on a championship team. I mean, he got a lot of credit for the wins at Golden State. He won, uh, I think, Finals MVP both years they won the championship with him there. And yet, I'm pretty sure that through those years and through those playoff runs that Steph's plus minus was better than KD's
Hmm.
plus minus. And
Hmm.
so even though Durant, he scores a lot, he's a great player, like Steph was really still dictating what happened on that.
Hmm.
And Draymond was kind of the emotional, get in your face, yell at guys leader if they're
Hmm.
not trying hard. And so Durant could just go out and score, let Steph take the pressure of the defensive focus, let Draymond take the pressure of leadership. And that was a great fit for Durant. I mean, it's kind of a shame he left. I think, I don't know all the details. I forget, maybe he and Draymond, you know, didn't get along too well, but
Hmm.
part of that has to be Draymond. He seems, like a hothead, but you know, Durant also, after a long stint with OKC, just doesn't seem like he's happy anywhere
Hmm.
after a year or two. So, that's the thing. He's getting towards the end of his career, so maybe it doesn't matter as much, but you know, kind of somebody who just doesn't seem to be able to find somewhere where he's really happy and can stick long term. So, but yeah, definitely they were the 2 seed without Kevin Durant.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be a year older, you know, getting Green out of the lineup and getting Durant in is a huge upgrade.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, it was a great trade for Houston. How would you grade the results for Houston and Phoenix, what they got back?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And man, your points are really good in terms of that, KD and everything. I think Um, I think I'd put it at probably for Houston a B plus A minus. Um, I don't know what Phoenix is trying to do, right? I don't, I mean, Phoenix has got, they got this stuff there, but you're like, I don't know where these guys are going. They spent all the money to bring in KD and Beal, and I mean, so for that standpoint, it's kind of like, I mean, it could be like Jalen Green. I mean, it could be a good one there, Dylan Brooks, but I don't quite have a plan for them. So to me, I'm going to give them maybe a B plus at this point because I just think they feel a little bit lost. I mean, you had these superstars to team with it. So yeah, so I think that's where I'd put it at. But I think you're right too that the ability to create shots, I think that's where they struggle with Houston off of their own. Be able to create their own shots. KD is going to be in that area as well, which would be great. So, but yeah, I'd say B plus A minus for Houston and a B for Phoenix.
Okay, well, I'm going to be a little different here.
Okay,
I'm
go.
giving Houston an A
Okay, all right.
because
I like it. I like the
here's,
little banter. That's
well,
good.
something leading up to this trade, what I had heard, if I'm recalling it correctly, is that Houston owns a future draft pick of Phoenix, and that part of the whole idea, the rumor mill about KD going to one of the pieces was, well, Houston's got the Phoenix pick, so Phoenix is going to want to trade with Houston to get their own pick back and start a rebuild. And Houston didn't give up that pick. I mean, that is amazing to me that Phoenix did not demand to get that pick. I don't remember, it's 26 or 27. I
Mhm.
forget. Unprotected pick. Houston
Mm.
has an unprotected pick of Phoenix's, and they were able to get the best player in the trade, and they were able to keep an unprotected pick that belongs to Phoenix, who, like you said, what are they doing? Nobody knows what. I mean, there's no clear direction there. That could be a super valuable pick in a
Yeah.
year or two. Again, I forget which year it is, but wow, I thought for Houston to do that, a solid A in my book, just because of that issue. And Phoenix a C. I mean, I don't understand all their best and most expensive players play the same position now, like a
I-
two guard or a 2-3. I mean, you have Bradley Bill, you have Booker, you have Green, and then you have Dylan Brooks. I mean, what kind of team is that? I mean, I'm assuming they're going to try to make more trades, but is Jalen Green at 30 plus $1 million a year have any trade value? What are they going to get for him? And Dylan Brooks, he's what, a great defender who's a role player on a good team.
Mhm.
What trade value is there? To me, it's one of those trades I've heard people say before, you know, it's like you never want to trade $1 for 4 quarters. But, you know, it's like Phoenix traded $2 for 3 quarters. I mean, this trade seemed to me so lopsided. I mean, I don't know how good the number 10 pick in the draft this year is going to be. I think there's like a strong eight. There's
Yep.
not a strong 10, I don't think.
Yep.
There's a really strong eight, the top two. But to me, this was like Houston got the best player and they kept that Phoenix pick. And to me, it's an A for Houston. It doesn't mean they're going to win a championship, but just in terms of this trade, C for Phoenix.
I like it, man. You're convincing me. I lower my number on Phoenix. This is good with it there. I would say, yeah, man, that's good. I will bump mine to an A minus for Houston, and the only reason I'm going to keep it at an A minus, although your argument is really good, is can Durant, the things we just talked about, Durant, right? His leadership, those pieces of it, can we get him to help kind of lead this team? So, and again, maybe the championship isn't it, another piece with it. But yeah, you're right. Phoenix is maybe I gave him a little bit too high there with it. So you convinced me well. Good argument.
Well, speaking of the draft picks of Phoenix,
Yep.
our final topic for today, we wanted to talk about the draft. Is it Wednesday or Thursday? I forget which
It's
day it is.
2 days. I think it's Wednesday, Thursday. I think it's Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay,
I should have
so
looked
it's
at that
Wednesday
before
and
we
it's
started.
Thursday. So, yeah, you like Duke, right?
Yes,
So I
yeah.
want to. I've got to start this segment out here by asking you, how did Duke not win the national championship this year? They've got three of the top five players in
Oh,
the draft, or three of
oh,
the top seven.
heartbreak, man. They choked over the last minute, up by was it 9 points with like a minute left, and just choked it away. So, yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've all seen in sports. Sometimes the best teams don't win, and this
Well,
team came up.
especially in the March Madness. That's
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mentioned earlier. One of the things I actually love that about college basketball, that the best team doesn't always win. Whereas the NBA, barring injuries, the best team almost always wins because you're playing 7 game series, right? And so
Yeah, if you put Duke over a 7 game series against that,
Duke wins
they win 4 out of 7 for sure with it.
easily. Yeah. But Cooper Flag,
Oof.
generational talent, fun player to watch. And is the NBA rigged? That's the next question for you. Dallas makes what looks like the worst trade in the history of the NBA and magically with a 1% chance of getting this generational talent get the number one pick in the draft. So what do you think, Brandon? Is the NBA rigged?
The older I get, I hit 50 last year, and these whole conspiracy things and all that stuff there, I'm like across, but yeah, but the older I get, I might start believing a little bit more of them. I mean, when I think we were texting each other that one. You're obviously based in Dallas there as well too, right?
Yep.
And but I mean, Nico Harrison had to be just sitting there like, oh my gosh, how did this, that's drop in my lap. I mean, that guy took a trade that across the board, man, people just ridiculed, and then he's got what I believe is a true generational player. I mean, having watched Duke, all season long and watched the team play, and I mean, Cooper Flag is the deal. I mean, will he be, a top 5 player in the NBA all time, top 10? I don't know, right? But this guy's going to be an all-star year in and year out, and it's his work ethic. He's just versatile. I mean, he dribbles. He led Duke in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and I think blocks. No, not blocks. The blocks there. I mean, just impressive. Seems to be a true teammate. Doesn't have an air about him. And I mean, I remember a couple years ago when he was playing, or last year on the Olympics, and he came out and practiced them. And these guys were going against the best of the best, right? The NBA, and they were impressed with him. So it's got a good upbringing with it from that regard too. So I mean, Dallas is. I mean, they still got to figure out with Kyrie Irving coming back, but somebody said the idea of Dallas trading him. I'm like, are you crazy? I was like,
Oh,
I mean,
were
they're like,
you
look at this. I was like, dude, if he does that, he'll definitely be like, he better put out a police
were
protection.
you could make the case that Nico Harrison might be crazy. So,
Yeah,
maybe
that's
that's just
true. Maybe he does there. Oh my gosh, please don't
you
trade
know,
Cooper Flag. So give that fan base there, but
some
he's a good.
post-traumatic stress disorder by a Dallas fan saying, "Are they going to trade? Are they going to trade him? Are they going to trade him?"
Oh, you could just see him just like going there with it. So he's going to be good. And I mean, yeah, I mean, you think about the versatile NBA right now, right? I mean, the teams that have the size, the teams that can switch, players over with it, and you get a guy like, Cooper Flag playing alongside, AD with the other guys they've got back there, Lively as well, and then you got Kyrie at the point when he comes back. That could be quickly become a pretty scary team. And I think the thing about Flag is, and then I'll stop talking here because I definitely like to talk, is his he's going to come in, and it's not. I think he's going to have a pretty quick J curve. I think he's going to go up pretty. He's going to have his challenges in the NBA, but I think his transition is going to be pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too. And going back to, this is normally a podcast about the women's basketball, but Dallas also got Paige Beckers on the women's side,
Yeah.
who is a generational talent who doesn't have the kind of teammates that the Cooper Flag's going to have with the Mavericks. And she's going to have a little bit of she's having an adjustment period now, just like Caitlin Clark did last year, but she's going to be a dominant player. Dallas getting both the number one picks this year on their two professional basketball teams. A lot of fun for somebody living in the DFW area. But yeah, Cooper Flag's special. And I'll have to throw in the Indiana tidbit. Yeah, I read an article about him, and he said, he grew up in the Northeast, and so his mom used to have him watching DVDs of Larry Bird and Boston Celtics games. So it's like, oh man, tugging at my heartstrings there, being a boy from Southern Indiana here. He's like, yeah, I'm a fan just because of that, and excited as living in the DFW area to see what happens. Then, from everything I've heard, there's a one player second tier, it seems like. And I ask you again, is the NBA rigged? How did San Antonio get Banyama and then happen to get the second pick in the draft? And they were not in the top 3 or 4, were they? I don't remember, but
No.
that was a surprise for them to jump into the top two, right?
Oh, I mean, poor Utah Jazz. I was reading. It was a great article I was reading earlier today that tiered the teams up, like playoff contender, and like we're trying to figure out what they're doing, and just really bad luck. And I mean, poor Jazz. I mean, they didn't. I mean, either top two because there's some clear like there's two top players, three top players right there. But I mean, San Antonio again. I mean, Wembanyama. I mean, I like that Castle as well. I mean, I think that he's a really stud guy. They're building a good young team here that's going to be formidable as well too. So I mean, you definitely want to take that little ping pong balls going through there. You're kind of like, is some of them weighted or whatever, or behind this, and they'll do ping pong now, but behind the scenes, is it weighted? And
Yeah.
you got to wonder, man. It's interesting.
Well, two things I want to ask you about quickly.
Yep.
And we talked about this before, but I think one thing is people tend to forget that San Antonio picked up De'Aaron Fox.
Yes.
I mean, they picked up a really good guard, and they're going to be drafting, by all accounts, a great guard,
Yep.
Dylan Harper, who I
Harper.
didn't get to see him play. Rutgers is in the Big Ten,
Yeah.
which is stupid, but Rutgers is in the Big Ten,
Oh,
and
we
that's
we
a
could have a whole podcast on
yeah,
a
we can
line
have a whole.
of
That's right.
conferences.
But when Rutgers played IU this year, Harper was injured.
Mhm.
So I want to have a little bit of Ace Bailey talk because I did see Ace Bailey play
Yeah.
this year. So I didn't get to see Harper, but everybody said clear by himself tier number two after flagged by himself in tier number one. But they've got De'Aaron Fox. So do you think, is there a trade in the future?
Yeah, that's what people have been talking about with Castle, Darren Fox, and then now, Harper with it as well too. So yeah, I think it's a question. Do you trade now or do you trade later, with it, if that crowded backfield with the backcourt with it? But I think you go for it. I think you see, how the teams gel, but I think it gives you access, assets, right, later on to
Yeah.
charge. I mean, you don't forget you got Chris Paul as well too. Does he come back or not? Now he's not going to be around long term, from that regard too. But yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, it depends on what you want. You could trade DeAndre and Fox down the road and free up some from cap space, with these guys. Because think about it, you've got all these guys on like rookie contracts as well too.
Right.
So if you want to go after, a forward or something like that, you could free up some money with it. So I would say you draft and you hold now to see what kind of develops for the year. And because I mean, realistically, I don't think San Antonio. I mean, they maybe move in. Maybe they're an 8 seed, 7 seed, 6 seed this year. I don't think they're going to win it this year. So do you kind of see how players gel, and then maybe next off season? So that'd be my thought.
I would agree. I think that's what they should do. You never know with Banyama with his health issue. Hopefully he comes back and is fully healthy. But if he takes another leap forward, he could quickly become the best player in the league. And in
Mhm.
basketball, when you have the best player on the court, you've always got a chance to win.
Yep.
So the other thing I wanted to ask about, this before I do want to talk a little bit about some of the other players, but specifically related to Cooper Flag and to Dylan Harper. You and I talked about this previously. The East and the West is kind of the gap is growing this year with this draft. I mean, the West has been dominant, um, and now the two best players far and away in this draft are both going to Western Conference teams.
Yeah, I think that chasm, that gap just continues to grow, right? Even more with it. So it's yeah, you got to be looking at that going like, wow. I mean, the West is just loaded with not only continued superstars, but all these young guys, right? I mean, Victor Wembanyama, generational player, right? Potentially could be the one of the greatest of all times if he can stay healthy. The things he can do. Now you got Cooper Flag, with I mean OKC. I mean, you got SGA, 26, right? 25, 26, as the MVP with it. I mean, Joker, he's still not like he's what 29, 30. I mean, he's even not even older from that standpoint. So, they're stacked. I mean, I think I guess if you're the East, the good thing is the West has got to beat each other up, right? To get out of the West is brutal. I mean,
Right.
and then the East is who knows what's gonna happen next year. So if you can make it through the East and not as hard of a schedule, you get to the West, to get to the finals, and maybe that team's beat up a little bit and injuries with it from that standpoint. But it's gonna
Well,
be a
this
lot.
may have to be another whole podcast. Maybe we can do another one next week after the draft, kind of
Yep.
post-draft analysis and discussing the East and the West. Because here, just a little tidbit, maybe a tease for next week's
There we go.
podcast. And you think the last three drafts, Banyama went to the West, then
Okay.
Atlanta got the number one draft pick, and who did they get?
Oh, you mean 2 years ago or?
Wasn't that just last year that Atlanta got Rozier? What was his name?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh
They got the
man.
number. So Banyama was 2 years ago.
Yep.
Generational talent went to the Western Conference. An Eastern Conference team got the number one pick last year.
Yep.
Not a generational talent. Not a great draft.
Great point. Really
And
good.
now this year, another generational talent. So again, that's maybe that'll be next week to talk about. But the draft seems to be leaning heavily, and you've got two of the best players in the Eastern Conference out with Achilles tendon injuries in these playoffs. So we'll have to hit on that some more. I did want to ask you before we wrap up here about I don't know if you've seen anybody else besides the Duke players, but and I'd love to hear your thoughts on a couple of the other Duke players who are going to be in the lottery. But I wanted to talk briefly about Ace Bailey because I saw him play.
Yep.
When he played IU, my
Yep.
thought was the next coming of Kevin Durant.
Hmm.
I mean, that's what he was amazing. He scored like 35, 40 points against IU. He was hitting threes, he was blocking shots, long, skinny, just a baller. He looked like KD. Again, I just saw one game, so he didn't score 40 points in every game, but the one game I saw him, I thought, "Oh my goodness, that
Hmm.
guy's amazing. How can Harper be better than him?" So, I don't know, did you get to see Rutgers play at all this year?
I didn't get to see much of them. I'm like with you, from that regard. I saw a couple of the highlights with it. I think he's come up interesting because of his. Did you see, his refusing to go to a draft work? I mean, team workouts with it, and
Yeah,
several with it. So he's been in the news the last week or so, not for the best of reasons.
not for good reasons at all.
Yeah,
Maybe he is the next coming of Kevin Durant, huh? He's already
oh,
laying
great
down the
point.
future. He's going to play for
Yeah.
8 teams in his career.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Which is sad because what you just said, I mean, you got a guy like that, I mean, if you're getting comparisons to KD, right? That type of versatile player, and this is becoming what we're hearing more about, right? People that are hearing more about it. It's interesting. I mean, the people whoever's giving him some good advice around him, man, they need to he might need to get some new people because I mean, I don't, he's trying to dictate to a certain team, maybe he's trying to kind of dictate that, but I mean, I don't know. Professional teams don't mess around with that. There's very few players in the history of sports that have been able to kind of dictate down. Obviously Bronny getting to go to the Lakers. LeBron had a lot of influence on that, going by to Eli Manning. But I think it's a risky move, and I'm curious about that one. So that to me has been interesting. I literally just wrote his name down to see if we're going to talk about him. Skill sets is good, and it's unfortunate that that is dominating the last bit of it, which should be his skill sets.
It is a shame. I mean, he's been dropping down the board
Yeah.
because of that. All the mock drafts I see, he's falling and falling because of this attitude. And it's really a shame because the game I saw him, he was spectacular.
Mhm.
And but if he's going to be a head case, he's not going to be helpful. Team chemistry, like we saw with the Pacers and the Thunder this year, can make a real difference in a team making it to the championship or not. And that teams are going to take that into account. So he's falling, but Knippel is going up the every mock draft I've seen. But I saw a couple of Duke games and not a lot. What are your thoughts on him?
Man, he is a fun player to watch. He didn't, I don't want to say he got overshadowed by Flag, but in some angles did. I mean, he's a 6'7" guy. You look at him and you're like, okay, guy looks like a little bit of a player, but like when he goes in, his strength is probably what the biggest thing that he will impress you. His 6'7" build. He goes inside and just he can outmuscle people. He can body people inside. He's been known, I think what most people get his highlight for is his 3-point shooting, right? That's what people talk about is 3-point shooting. They really talk about, but
Right.
he can drive the lane with it. He can body people. He will often, because sometimes he's on a guard, a 6'2" or 6'3" guard, and him at like 6'7", right? He'll back him down, right? And be able to post up with him. So, he's a good player. I think he's going to be a solid all-star, right? I think he's going to be a guy that coming in there. He can hit 15 to 20 a night, going to get you, a couple assists, going to get you a couple rebounders. But he's another guy that just goes out. I mean, he just goes out and plays basketball, doesn't complain. I mean, that team, you thought about that team coming together could have really like been because Flag got so much attention, but they really like bonded together with it. So he's going to be a solid guy, going to be a no drama guy. I mean, you come through the Duke program. And that program there, they tend to not be maybe Leitner. People would talk about that, but I think he's going to be a stud wherever he goes to.
Then what about Maluak? I'm not sure how to say his name. The big
Yep,
seems like a great uh, defender.
yep.
Really long. Seems like he's athletic. What were your thoughts about him throughout the season?
Well, I had two thoughts. I wish the Lakers would go get him because the Lakers on pick and
Ah,
roll with Luca would be a very fun team to watch, right? He would fit in very well with it. I honestly thought he should have stayed one more year. Uh,
mm,
I think he's got that upside potential. Incredible player. I mean, his roll off there, his blocking, his ability. I mean, he's only been playing the game for just a few years, right? So he's not been playing it for a long time. And I thought originally, like, man, well, of course, that's selfishly because I want him at Duke one more year. So if I'm being there, but I thought, man, one more year to get some refinement down with him because he's still raw in a few areas with it. But I mean, to a versatile big like that, he blocks shots. I mean, we've seen the impact of Chet Holmgren in the playoffs right there. Impact, the people driving to the lane, and again, a team player, as well too with it. So, I mean, he's block shots, gets a rebound underneath the hoops. I mean, the amount of alley hoops that he had and off the pick and rolls. I mean, again, you find a team like that, and he's going to really help a team, increase in that area really well.
yeah, I think that would be a great fit. The Lakers obviously need a big after they traded Davis. Thought they had him. Was it Williams with
And Mark
Charlotte?
Williams, that's they had the
Yeah,
trade done. Yep, yep.
yeah. So I think that would be, but I think he's going to go long before unless the Lakers can make a trade up somehow. That's unless they make the same. They got some pieces. They got a draft pick. They've got Connect. They've got some good young pieces. Maybe they can move up. But yeah, they definitely need a center. So should be fun. The draft's always fun to watch.
It is. I mean, they last I saw, they had both those guys, all three of those guys going in the top seven. So that's pretty, pretty crazy. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think too high for the Lakers. But man, it'd be a fun team to see. We'll see because he fits that Mark Williams type of style as well. So, but
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we may have to do another one in the next week or so, just some post-draft analysis, talk about next year, given what we saw through the playoffs and some of the injuries. And would you be up for doing another podcast here?
oh, absolutely, man, a lot of fun here with it too. So definitely with it. So I'll make sure to hone in my answers a little bit shorter next time. We know I like to talk, so
That's
it's been
right.
a lot of fun, man. This is what we get to do all the time with it. So it's anytime I get to talk about sports, it'll be good because then my wife doesn't have to hear about all my sports analysis all the time.
All
Thanks
right. Well,
for the invite.
Brandon,
Great to be a guest here today.
yeah, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Sounds good.